So the real purpose of this video is to talk about using why and how I use my ferro rod. Some of you guys who watch my videos have seen that I use my knife blade when I strike my ferro rod, and I do that intentionally. It's on purpose. It's because of several reasons. Number one, it was how I was taught, and it's extremely effective. And that is the primary reason that I use it like that. So let me go through a lot of the different reasons why that is, and why when I was a survival instructor for the Air Force that they taught us this way. Aside from it being the most effective, you always have to teach to the lowest level of your audience, okay? And so at survival school, air crew members, we didn't know what the range of we had a full range of experiences. We had people from special operations all the way down to 40-year-old mothers who have never been in the woods, and so we had to teach to the lowest level. And if we were to have taught that you always have to use the back of a knife, like a lot of people do, and that will work. You can do that with the back of a knife. As you can see, it'll throw sparks. But the problem with that is not all knives have a nice crisp 90-degree angle. And so then what happens if your student has a knife that doesn't have the right angle? Well, he's been taught, oh, you can only use a ferro rod, don't ever use the sharp end of the knife. Well, that's a problem for him. And it's going to keep him or her from being able to start a fire. So you teach the most effective way, which is to use the blade. Okay, and the sharper the angle that you can use on a ferro rod, the more effective it's going to be. Now, what about with the pocket knife? All right, with the pocket knife, if we were to try to take and use the back of a knife, or with a ferro rod, then what's going to happen? It's very easy when you're putting the pressure on there that could come back and cut somebody and cause more injury. So you don't teach that. You teach use the front end of it. Now, when you do that, you're using the back half-inch or so of the blade typically. All right, you're not using a lot of the blade. You're not using way out here, and you're using basically this end right here, and you're pushing down maybe 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch or so from the base of the knife. So does it dull the blade? Yes, to a certain extent it does. Does it make the knife unusable? No, it doesn't. I've personally started thousands of fires like this, and in one trip, started probably 10 or 12 fires, and always using the knife this way, it still works. And as you'll see here in just a second, I'm going to be able to take this knife. I've done all of these sparks on this. I'm going to be able to take this knife, and I'm still going to be able to make feather sticks. Okay? Just like I was before, the knife is still usable. It hasn't made the knife to the point where it won't function. Okay? And I think that's the thing that a lot of people get hung up on. Well, you've dulled your knife, and now your best tool is not going to be able to be used. And that's just not the case. It still can be used, and if you're using your head and if you're using the right survival principles, you should have a sharpening stone with you anyway. Okay? And so even if you don't have a sharpening stone, you can probably go down to the creek or look around for a rock and find something to go ahead and hone that up with. All right? So my point is that just because you use the sharp end of a knife, the blade of a knife, on a ferro rod does not mean that it's not going to work. And like I said, there are valid reasons for not teaching to do it that way. So that is a couple of the reasons why I use the sharp end of the knife. The other thing is, having a fire, and what I teach primarily, I talk a little bit about bushcraft on my site, and I talk a little bit about prepping, but primarily my website is geared towards wilderness survival. So wilderness survival is, in my view, and what I teach, a circumstance where you're out and you're about, and you run into bad weather, or someone in your party gets injured, or something along those lines, and you need to stay the night out there unexpectedly, all right, or maybe for a few nights, or maybe for a week, who knows how long. And so the techniques that I teach are life-saving techniques that people can use to get fire going, to maintain their core body temperature, and that kind of thing. And when you balance the priorities of having a small part of your knife slightly dulled versus being able to build a fire quickly and efficiently without harming yourself, without cutting yourself, or without causing other issues, the fire takes priority over the dull knife. Clearly, far and away, there's no question about it. Fire is more important than the edge that you keep on your knife, okay? And so that is another reason that I teach to use the sharp edge of the knife. Another reason is, let's say that you've got a fixed blade knife, okay? And you are doing this, all right? And you're using this corner, all right? You got your sharp edge of your knife right here by your thumb. Okay, yeah, you shouldn't put it right on there. I agree with you. But when you throw in panic, fear, dehydration, and all those kinds of things, what does this do? This sets you up to cut yourself and make your situation worse. Okay? So, that's when we use this side. All right? It just makes more sense to use the sharp edge of the knife. It's the way your knife is meant to be held. It keeps you from getting cut. It's more effective, it's faster, it's more efficient, and it's in line with your survival priorities and what you need to do. So, those are the primary reasons that I use it the way I do. And in 16 years of knowing these survival techniques, using them myself, teaching them to more than 500 Air Force students, I have never seen anybody wear out their knife because they've used the sharp end of it. All the knives that I have and have used are still functional, still good, they still take an edge, and they still work. And that's because the ferro rod is a very soft metal, okay? It's not hard like the steel on a knife. And so, although it does, like I said, it does dull it down slightly, it doesn't do a lot of damage. It just basically rolls over the edge, and you can still use the knife. It's still functional, and you can certainly sharpen it up and dress it up very, very easily afterwards. So now let's talk about how to use it. Number one thing when you're using a ferro rod that I think is that you need to have a solid platform. Okay, like I've got a rock right here. It's dry. It's going to keep my tinder pile dry, and the reason I want a solid platform is because I want to be able to anchor that ferro rod right here in the corner, right there, close to the tinder, and I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to put it down. Now notice I'm not doing it straight like this, because if I do that, what's going to happen is I can snuff the sparks out whenever I go down there to push on it. So what I want to do is I want to hold it about a 45-degree angle so that my tip hits first down here and stops the knife from snuffing the sparks out and stops it from smashing the tinder too much. So then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it like this, and it's going to start up. Okay, and it's pretty easy and pretty basic. We'll let that burn out. Alright, so that is one way to do it. If for whatever reason you don't have a solid platform that you're working off of, and you're still trying to ignite your shavings, your tinder, whatever the case may be, I'd recommend you find a platform, but if you can't, it's no problem. You can still use it another way. And that is going to be, let's use the other one here. Let me say, if you have a knife, this is while I'm thinking about it, if you have a knife that has an awl on it, with a sharp edge, then this is a very good option for you to use as well. Okay. Now, I don't teach this as my primary method though, because not all knives have an awl on it, so I teach the blade. But if you have an awl, that does work as well, especially if it's sharp. So let me get back to this. So anyway, another thing to think about, I'm going off on a bunny trail here, but whenever you use the knife, use it in different places and rotate it frequently whenever you use it. And what that does is that helps to keep it stay round, and it helps to keep from developing gouges in one part of it, and your ferro rod's going to last a lot longer. So anyway, if you don't have a solid platform for whatever reason, then you can also hold your hand steady, just hold it right here, and then you can also pull the ferro rod back. And this is a less precise way, in my opinion, and it doesn't work as well for me. And the reason I say that is because when you use this method, you're not able to direct the sparks as effectively as you can when you're holding the ferro rod down and then striking the knife into it. When you use that first method that I showed you, you can use a ferro rod to light a candle. You can light pretty much anything that you can light with a lighter, and it works very effectively that way. So that is the primary way that I recommend that you do this, is like this. And I know I'll get a bunch of slack. A lot of people have drank the Kool-Aid and listened to survival personalities and stuff like that say you should never do this, but I've explained the reasons that I do it, and I know that it's effective. And when it comes to fire, you have to use what's effective. You have to use what you know is going to work in a survival situation. It's irresponsible, in my opinion, to teach people to use the back edge of a knife, because you're not teaching to the lowest level, and people who don't understand or who don't have the right equipment or whatever are not going to learn effectively and be able to execute effectively when in the field. So that is just my 2 cents on it. Like I said, I've had several comments and several questions about it on a lot of my different videos, so I thought I'd throw it out there so that I don't have to continue to re-explain it, and so that people would understand that there is good reason for it, and it's not just trying to be a cowboy or trying to be reckless or anything like that. It's actually well thought out and on purpose, that it's done that way. So I think that's pretty much it on the ferro rod. I also, if you've watched some of my videos, you also know that in addition, I always recommend having at least 2 knives, if not 3. I prefer a 3-knife system, and I'll do a video on that as well to kind of tell you why and all that kind of stuff. But it just goes to further reinforce that if you're prepared, you'll have more than 1 knife, so even if one does get a little bit dull, you still have a backup and a sharpening stone, and you're good to go. So, and also, sharpening your knife once you get your fire going is a good pastime. You're killing time, you got all night to spend, you're probably not going to sleep real well. Sit around, sharpen your knife, have a good time, and it's not that big a deal. So anyhow, I hope this was useful. I hope it explains why I use the sharp end of my knife to strike a ferro rod, and I hope that you guys do the same. I hope that you don't drink the Kool-Aid, and I hope that you start your fires the most efficient and effective way possible. So with that, I will talk to you guys later, and we'll get another video for you out here for you shortly. Let's see if we can get these feather sticks lit up with no tinder, with just the ferro rod. There we go. Nope. Again, it's effective.